Welcome to today's 5-minute Bible study in the Gospel of Mark. We're still in Mark chapter 7. Today we start the last paragraph of that chapter. It begins in verse 31. Now Jesus, you recall, had been in the village of Tyre. He went there sort of on a retreat, an alone time with his disciples. But a Gentile woman hears he's there. She comes with a great need. Her daughter is possessed by a demon. She wants help. And Jesus sets the little girl free. And now as the passage continues, Jesus moves on again, begins to travel again. Notice what happens next. So Jesus left the vicinity of Tyre and went through Sidon down to the Sea of Galilee into the region of the Decapolis. So basically he's skirting around the north part of Galilee, around the northernmost tip of the Sea of Galilee, and going down to the village. The village is called Decapolis, means 10 cities. This is a Gentile area. So notice he's still staying in Gentile areas. But even there, people brought to him a man who is deaf and could hardly talk. They begged Jesus to place his hands upon him. So again, we're in another Gentile area, but still the people have heard about Jesus. And this time they bring a man who is deaf. And they ask Jesus to help. Can you place your hands on him? So Jesus took the man aside, away from the crowd. He put his fingers into the man's ears, and he spit and touched the man's tongue. He looked up to heaven, and with a deep sigh, he said, Ephphatha, which means be opened. At this, the man's ears were opened. His tongue was loosened. He began to speak plainly. Before, he could neither hear nor speak, but now after the touch of Jesus, he can both hear and speak, and he does so. Jesus commanded them not to tell anyone, but the more he did so, the more they kept talking about it. So people were overwhelmed with amazement. He's done everything well. He even makes the deaf to hear and the mute to speak. So once again, these miracles of Jesus are authenticating signs. You might ask, well, why does he want to keep it private? Why does he tell them not to publicize the event? Well, it has to do with misunderstanding that the signs are there. They point to who Jesus is, but often people misunderstand and they only want the signs themselves. They're coming just to see a show, many of them. And so Jesus is trying to avoid that and focus on this matter of faith. But the word still spreads. And all the people are talking, they're amazed at him. Who can do such things? To make the deaf to hear, to make the mute to be able to speak. Who can do such things? He who is the Son of God. And so they give witness to Jesus. He has done everything well. In other words, there are amazing signs and wonders that are proceeding from his ministry. And this sense of the amazing grace of God that is evident in Jesus is spreading. So the word is becoming more and more about this miracle worker, Jesus, this prophet, Jesus, this one who speaks the word of God, Jesus. And people are flocking to hear him. In fact, that will set up the next miracle, which is again a miracle of feeding of a multitude. Jesus already done this once. Remember, he fed the 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish, and that miracle is about to be replicated because the crowds are once again are going to come flocking to Jesus. So as we start chapter 8, it says, now during those days, another large crowd had gathered. And since they had nothing to eat, Jesus says to them, that is to his disciples, I have compassion for these people. They've already been with me for 3 days and they have nothing to eat. If I send them home hungry, they will collapse on the way, for some of them have come from a very long distance. The crowds have come again. They've been with him for 3 days now. It's sort of like a little revival going on. But Jesus is concerned they didn't bring enough to eat. And if we send them home in hunger, they may collapse on the way. We need to feed them. His disciples answered, but where in this remote region can we get enough bread to feed them? How quickly they had forgotten. Just a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago, they had fed the multitude with 5 loaves and 2 fish. And even on that occasion, they said, how are we going to have enough resources? You would think they'd have a little more faith this time. How can we do this? Jesus has to teach them again. How many loaves do you have? He said, 7. Got a few more loaves of bread this time, 7, but still. But he told the crowd to sit on the ground. He took the 7 loaves, gave thanks, broke them, gave them to the disciples to distribute to the people, and they did so. They also had a few small fish as well. He gave thanks for them also and told the disciples to distribute them. The people all ate, and they were all satisfied. And afterwards, the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. There were about 4,000 present. So after this, he sent them away. He got into the boat with his disciples and went to the region of Dalmanutha. So once again, it's almost the exact miracle repeated as had been done a few months before, the feeding of the multitude. Shows how important this miracle is. Jesus is showing them that he is the Son of God. The signs communicate that. He's also showing them that he comes to give them the bread of life. The disciples are coming to faith, but they still struggle a little bit. They still had doubts the second time that Jesus could do it again. But once again, he shows who he is and what he's come to do. The word is spreading. Now, in the next passage, something remarkable is about to happen. And we've got some more discussion about the Pharisees. So we'll see that in our next session. So join us tomorrow for our next 5-minute Bible study in the Gospel of Mark.